Hey procrastinators, today I'm here with a video hop celebrating Maria's 100 subscriber milestone. Congrats Maria, and thank you for asking me to join in your celebration. So the theme of this hop is what is your superpower? And I'm going to be a little honest, I struggled with this one. I tend to be, what is that saying? Jack of all trades, master of none, I guess. I guess that's how I kind of I see myself. I tend to be a dabbler. Some people have told me that I am a technique junkie even. You've probably, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that I tend to bounce around. I've got a lot of supplies and mediums, and I like to bounce around and use them all. So what my superpower is, I guess, is I like to make a mess. I like to get inky. I like to make a mess, and so my friend Renee over on Delaney Jane Cards was making alcohol ink backgrounds the other day, and I was watching her video, and I needed to make this video, and I was like, you know what? I haven't played with my alcohol inks in a while, and I have been missing them. So my superpower is making a mess and enjoying it, and so that's what I'm doing here, is making a mess and enjoying it. So you'll see this this red pen-like thing in my hand, and that is a I cannot remember the actual terminology for it right now, but basically it is a mini air compressor. And I have showed it in a video that I've done previous alcohol ink backgrounds in, and I will try to remember to link that up in the iCards, where I actually show the mini compressor and give a little bit more information about it. So I won't repeat all that information here, but if you are interested in knowing what my little mini air compressor is and seeing it actually on video, I will link that video up in the iCards. So you also see that I'm getting this weird, like, bubbly-like texture on my cards, and that is because I am using a mini mister full of rubbing alcohol. And you can spray rubbing alcohol, you just do not want to spray the blending solution. The blending solution from Ranger has like some sort of resins in it, and you do not want to inhale those. So I do spray the rubbing alcohol, and I actually use what is it? I am having a terrible time with words today, guys. Well, not that that's really anything new. You know, when you have chronic pain, that brain fog really gets you, guys. I use, my husband gets it from the hardware store. It's, denatured alcohol. That's what I use. We get it from the hardware store. So anyway, as you can see, this piece is totally turning into a hot mess, but I'm going to save it here in a second. So I keep putting some alcohol on it and trying to kind of smooth out those blotchy areas, the big blotches. I kind of like the textured look. And it's on the edges and the corners from when I sprayed the denatured alcohol, but I don't like those big splotches in towards the middle. So I keep trying to put the denatured alcohol on it to kind of break up those big splotches, but it's just not working for me. So I grab a alcohol ink blending tool from Ranger, and I put a piece of felt on it, and I just cut up regular craft felt for mine. I don't buy the pre-cut felts that Ranger sells. So I just grab a piece of felt, and I grab some alcohol ink, and I make little dots on it. I'm sorry, I'm off camera there. And then I grab my denatured alcohol, and I put some of that on there, and I am just making little pounces on it. And I keep twisting the tool so I'm not making the same pounce marks in the same spot in the same pattern, if that makes any sense. So I'm not actually twisting the tool on the Yupo paper. I just twisting it before I put it down. That way I'm not making the same pattern on the paper or the Yupo, if that makes sense. So And I just keep doing this several times. I put a little bit more ink, put a little bit more of the denatured alcohol on there, and I'm just covering up those big splotchy areas and kind of breaking it up a little bit until I'm happier with the piece. I mean, it still didn't end up perfect, but it was much better than what it was, I think. And then right at the end here, I don't know if it's going to show on camera very well, but I did spray it real quick just to kind of get those little bubbly marks on there. And then this piece, I'm going to use the Ranger blending solution for the most part. I will bring in some of the denatured alcohol in there a little bit, but I just decided to use mostly blending solution on this. And I do want to caution you that if you do have the blending solution, make sure that you wipe the threads off when you put it away. Mine was like glued shut. I'm not even joking. I did not know that was possible, but I had to run it under some hot water and get my husband to open it for me, which really is a pretty common occurrence in this house because my hands are really weak. But he had to work at it quite a bit to get it open. So the difference between the blending solution and the denatured alcohol, besides the cost, and I am cheap, so that is the main reason why I use the denatured alcohol. But the blending solution is not going to evaporate as much as the denatured alcohol or rubbing alcohol will. But so you do get a little bit more playtime with it. So that is the biggest thing that I've noticed. Some people say that the alcohol inks will move a little bit differently. I don't really notice a whole lot of that. I just noticed that you get a little bit more playtime out of it because it doesn't evaporate as quick. So again, I'm just putting the inks on here and I am moving them around with my airbrush, little compressor tool, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just playing. I didn't really mention this in the last one. It did pop up on the screen, but I did put the regular inks down first, and then towards the end I put the pearls down. I did use a couple of the pearl colors on both pieces. I do notice that the pearls don't move as easily as the regular inks do. I'm not really sure why that is. I don't know if it's just because the mica is heavier than the just regular inks are, but I did notice that I don't get as much movement from the pearls, so just keep that in mind if you are working with pearls. But other than that, I'm just playing here. I don't really have any super advanced tips for you. I just kind of play. I just add a little bit of this, add a little bit of that, move it around, and have fun. I'm certainly not an expert with alcohol inks. I just have fun with them. And if I don't like it, you can take your blending solution or your alcohol and just wipe the piece clean. With Yupo paper, it will wipe clean for the most part. I mean, it'll be a little bit stained, but for the most part, it will wipe fairly clean and you can start over. So next up, I will show you what this piece looks like in the end, and then we're going to move on to the stamping and coloring of my butterflies that I'm going to stick on top of this. And then, so I'm going to use the Simon Says Stamp Beautiful Butterfly stamp set, and this did come in the June card kit, but I do believe that you can buy the stamp set separately. You don't have to buy the card kit. But I am loving the butterflies in this stamp set, so I'm going to stamp them out, and I did stamp them out. Well, I had originally planned on making 4 cards, but quite honestly, I kind of just ran out of steam, so I only ended up making 2 cards. But I did stamp this out multiple times, so I could make at least the 2 cards. I did stamp it out 4 times so I could make 4, but like I said, I ran out of steam. So I'm going to leave the coloring in for just this one card. I did use a different color combination for the second card, but you can find that over on my blog where I list all my supplies and everything. It was just the shading and everything was the same, so I didn't want to leave the coloring in for all of it. But I did use some blues and blue-green markers for the other card to match the background, of course. So let's talk about Maria for a minute. This is a hop to celebrate her, after all. I don't know her real well, but I do know her a little bit. We've been in the same Handmade Happiness Facebook group for a while, and that group is ran by Courtney Krieber. We are also in Team Tiny together. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know that I've been in Team Tiny for several months now. Maria just recently joined and did her first Team Tiny video this month, and she did this awesome shaped teapot shaker card, and it was just fabulous. She is also an amazing colorist, so if you are into coloring, I suggest that you follow her channel. She started her channel about 3 months ago, I believe. We are celebrating her 100 subscriber milestone, but she's actually almost to 200, so it would be really awesome if we could get her over 200 for this hop. So if you haven't subscribed already, I encourage you to do so. If you haven't come across her video yet in the hop, I do have it linked below, or her channel linked below at least, in my description box. So I encourage you to hop on over there, be sure to subscribe, and congratulate her on this amazing first milestone as a YouTuber. If you aren't a YouTuber, 100 may not seem all that big to you, but when I hit 100, it was just like, I don't know, to me it was huge. And I think that a lot of YouTubers feel that way too. You just can't believe that 100 people really want to watch you. And then when you hit 500, it's like, holy crap, 500 people want to watch me. And then 1,000. And I don't know, it just seems, it's a big deal. And so I think that you should subscribe and congratulate her. This is a big deal, especially in just 3 months time. It's really hard. YouTube does not make it easy for you to be seen when you're such a small channel. So just give her some props and some love. And so we're just going to finish up the coloring here, and then we're going to move on to the next step. So there are some giveaways along this hop. So there is a $50 Amazon gift certificate, which is open US and internationally, which will be sent by email. There is also a $50 Sandy Alnock virtual gift card, which is also open US and internationally. And there's a 5-pack of Easy Lights plus a 2-pack of some gems, High Gems, H-A-I, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, which was donated by Amanda Stevens, which is also open US and internationally. So you need to leave some comments on the videos. The more comments that you leave, the better your chances are of winning. And those comments need to be left by June 20th of 2020. And the winners will be announced via a YouTube video on Maria's channel on June 27th of 2020. So keep an eye out for that. And there will be more details, you know, all the nitty-gritty stuff down in my description box below if you need to check that out. So I'm just finishing up the coloring of the butterfly here. I'm not going to color the third one because the shading was exactly the same as the butterfly that I'm coloring right now. So I didn't want to be all repetitive and whatnot. So I'm just going to put my panel here onto my little matting panel, which is some Craft Perfect mirror cardstock in Magnificent Magenta. And I do, I don't know if you notice the score tape, I just pull it off on the corners a little bit so I can pop it on here, and I'm only dealing with the sticky on the little tiny bits of the corners. That way if I have to remove it like I'm doing right now, I am only having to remove that very, very sticky score tape on the corners and not having to remove the whole panel that is sticky. So I find that easier to deal with, and then I just rip the little the backing off like I'm doing now. I find it so much easier to deal with than having to deal with the whole sides of the panel that's sticky. And I do add a little bit of wet glue to that part that's sticky. That way it slides around a little bit too. And I did the same thing for this panel here. I just took it out so you didn't have to watch me adhere another panel on there. Then I'm going to pop these butterflies up on some foam tape, and I use X-Fasten foam tape from Amazon because it's cheap and it is archival quality, or so they say. So I hope it is. And I'm not going to show all that either. I'm just gonna cut that right out of the video. And then we're going to move on to the inside of the card, maybe? Or maybe I did the outside. I did the outside first. So this sentiment comes from the Beautiful Butterflies stamp set. And I debated on how I was going to do this, but I ultimately decided to stamp it in archival ink because the archival ink will dry on the Yupo paper. You could do Stays On, but I don't really like to use Stays On with my clear stamps. You know, it's kind of debatable on whether that's okay with your clear stamps or not. The StazOn cleaner is not okay for your clear stamps, and you could wash them afterwards, but I just decided to use the archival ink. Now on this green panel, it didn't show up quite as well as I would have liked it to. It's better in person than it is on video, but it still doesn't show up real well. And as you can see here, well, here in a minute after I show you on camera. I mean, it showed up, but it's not great. It does show up better in person. And I'm sitting here looking at it like, I'm not in love. I don't hate it, but I'm not in love. So I did it on the second panel too, and it showed up much better. But I mean, it is what it is. I couldn't really think of a way to fix it. I do have white StazOn, and I might have been able to do that, but my white StazOn is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of funky. I think it might have went bad or something. I mean, it works, but it's kind of like clumpy, and I don't know. It was kind of weird. So and again, I didn't really want to use StazOn on my clear stamps. I just kind of feel iffy about that. So anyway, I took when I cut down the panels, I kept these little strips, and sometimes I like to add them to the inside of my cards. It's a pop of color. It's pretty, and I don't have to throw away that beautiful little strip, because I hate wasting beautiful things. So I'm just going to glue the card panels onto the fronts now. And this just makes me grumpy every time I have to do it. I took my card bases or my Nina cardstock to Staples, and they jacked up my cardstock. And so every once in a while I have to cut my card bases to fit my card panels because they are wonky. So that's what that was all about. So there's that finished card, and then we're going to finish up the other one here real quick. I'm going to do the same thing to the inside. I'm just going to pop that little scrap on the inside there and cut off the excess. I just love that little pop of color in there. It's so pretty. And we're going to put the card panel onto the card base. And I think this one actually fit. Yeah, that one fit. So I must have got a good sized one on that one. It's so random sometimes. I can't wait to get through this ream of card bases, because it just ticks me off every time. And there's the finished card one of that. So I hope that you enjoy this hop and enjoyed my cards today. Don't forget to hop along to the next person in the hop. The link will be in my description box below. And as always, have a great day.